the January 15th edition of the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series, brought to you by the National Urban League. I'm your host, Kenneth L. Johnson, president of the Harlem, New York-based diversity recruitment firm, East Coast Executives. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. The Digital Career Success Series, DCSS, is a professional development series that brings members of our Urban League Young Professional chapters and other diverse job seekers to develop new skill sets that will enhance their careers through digital platforms such as webinars, Facebook, and Instagram Live. The goal is to provide an opportunity for professional development right from one's computer. You want more? Visit us at nuljobsnetwork.com. I'm really excited about today's Digital Career Success Series, Resumes Reinvented, featuring Ashley Watkins Thomas, recently named JobScan Career Influencer to Watch, and also Nathan Adams. Just was with Nathan at Black Men Excel. Excited to have him here today. They'll share insights on creating resumes that not only stand out, but get results. All right, let's get to business. Ashley, welcome to the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series. Tell us a little bit about your work.
All right, yeah. So I'm a job search coach for Right Step Resumes, and I started my business because I am a former corporate recruiter, and a lot of times candidates would not get selected for these jobs for making these very, very simple mistakes. So I wanted to be able to share feedback so they can improve, so they can get jobs. And because of company policies, I wasn't able to share that information. So I decided that I was going to start making Facebook posts all day, every day, giving tips about interviews, about resumes, about job searching, about how your social media can impact your job search. And that turned into Right Step Resumes, where I offer official job search coaching to mid-career to senior level professionals who are seeking opportunities to get more interviews and also six and multi-six-figure offers at some of the top brands across the globe. So that's what happened. And then also, I ended up going full time because my career was not stable as a recruiter. There were so many changes happening at that time. So I decided to, really beef up my business so that I can have something to fall back on, because we all need to be doing something else, getting some more passive income, getting additional income so that we're not so reliant upon these employers. So that's really my story. So I'm excited to be here today to share what I know, and to also talk to Nathan about what he knows and share information to help you guys get the jobs that you deserve.
Thank you. All right, Nathan, great to see you here, Mr. Adams. Welcome to the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, glad to be here, Ken. So my story, I've been in, called the resume writing career coaching game for 22 years. My background's in engineering. I have a bachelor's and master's in mechanical engineering, but about 22 years ago, lost my job to a layoff. And at that point, we're trying to think of what I wanted to do differently, and actually was, I'm a heavy reader, so I bought some books. Bought a book on home-based businesses. One of the businesses in that book was a resume writer. So I became a certified resume writer 22 years ago, started meeting clients face to face, enjoyed it, loved it, just got inspired and had passion behind helping people with their job search. And then a few years later, got my coaching certification, and I love what I do. Most of my work now is in the outplacement space, helping people with job search strategy, resume writing, LinkedIn profiles, job search strategy, interview training, and even salary negotiation. So, I'm passionate about the work, love networking with other professionals in the industry. So happy to be on this call with you and Ashley, and looking forward to helping the audience. The key here for me is you want to focus on more hard skills as opposed to soft skills. I see a lot of resumes weekly, and I'll see resumes that talk about skills in communication or organization, teamwork, time management. Those are all soft skills, but employers are really looking for those hard skills. So you can data mine for hard skills in the job postings you see. Things like AI is the buzzword. So if you have skills in artificial intelligence, make sure that that keyword is on your resume. Machine learning, data science, cybersecurity, marketable technical skills for your industry. And you should be aware of those, but if you're in a fast-moving industry, the job description or the job posting will most likely list those skills, and it's important that you have those on the resume, because those are things that a company's looking for. And not only on your resume, I'd put them near the very top of your resume. Sometimes I'll see those skills at the end of the resume, move those skills to the top so and make them evident by bullet points so that your employers can see those.
Yep, and I would add on to that too. It is important to have your information. If you think about your resume, and you fold your resume in half, so whatever you have above the fold, that's the first thing that the recruiter is going to look at. So when your resume comes across my desk, I'm looking at the very top of that. I want to know your name. I want to know that I can contact you. I want to see where you're located to make sure that you're eligible for this opportunity. And then furthermore, I want to see those skills that you have experience with. I'm going to gauge the things like your communication skills, your writing skills, and your collaboration by the examples that you give on your resume. So while you may have a skills section that lists out your bulleted, things that's you telling me those are your areas of expertise. This is where I shine. This is where I kick butt. Then I want to see those examples. I want to see where you've backed that information up in the lower part of your resume when you start to get into that professional experience. It's not enough for you to keyword stuff because a lot of
Sure.
people do that. They put their information in systems like JobScan, maybe ChatGPT or Claude or something like that. They get this laundry list of skills and they pack them into the skills section of the resume, but then there's no evidence of success in those areas. So it's not enough just to put the keywords or skills on your resume. You need to show examples and you need to be able to speak to that because if you put it on that resume and tell me that that's what that's your jam, when I'm interviewing you, I'm wanting those examples. I'm going to ask you questions that make
Right.
you prove that to me that you have that expertise.
Yeah.
So, definitely use the technology to help you identify those skills, but you definitely want to be able to speak to them as well, whether it's written or in your interview.
Yeah, before we move on, Ashley, that is key. And I'm glad you mentioned that. So for the folks that are on the webinar, don't put anything on your resume that you can't speak to, because the question could be, "Oh, I see you have data science skills. Can you tell me about how you used those?" And if you can't answer that question, that's going to be a long interview for you. So yeah, you're right, Ashley. Make sure that when you list those skills, you want to make sure that in the body of your resume, the experience section, you're showing some evidence of how you use those. I definitely agree.
Yep, absolutely. And a lot of times you're not giving yourself credit, for those skills that are there. So if somebody says that, okay, this position requires project management skills, well, you may not have been a project manager, right? But there are times that you were responsible for some sort of initiative, some new way of doing things, and it's your responsibility to be able to share with the recruiter or with the hiring manager, whoever is interviewing you, those experiences. So while you may not have been called a project manager, you may have done project management by way of function. So be
Mhm.
sure to give yourself credit for what those keywords actually mean, even though that wasn't an official part of your job. If you did the skill, if you have the experience, you have it. So stand on it. It's up to you to prove to that interviewer that yes, I do have these skills, and here's why.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Ashley and
Totally.
Nathan, thank you so much for doing that. I'm going to jump in real quick for our host. I am Julius Jones, the Director of Professional Learning and Events. And as our host is having just a few technical difficulties, I'm jumping on real quick to keep the conversation going. What you all are saying in this moment is extremely important as someone that works in talent management. I think that it's important for our audience to hear these things. So now let's go ahead and do just a quick shift. Let's think about those keywords in job posting using AI when writing your resume. Can we talk about what that looks like, how that works, and give our audience just some best practices on how to use that?
Yep. So in the last couple of years, there has been, an uptick in how artificial intelligence has impacted the way not only hiring happens, but the way that job seekers are actually approaching applying for positions.
Hmm.
So one of the things that I see when I'm working with clients and job seekers and I'm doing, webinars like this is that people have trouble understanding what keywords actually are. So keywords are typically nouns, and they're actually job functions, things that will let the employer know that you have experience with this particular thing, doing this particular thing, or you have knowledge of this particular thing, right? So it could be if you're an accountant, it may be something like general ledger, it may be P&L statements, it may be budgets. If you're a project manager, it may be performance tracking, it may be milestones, it may be vendor management, and those types of things. If you're in technology, it may be something like data security, it may be infrastructure or, network management or something like that. And so in order for you to make sure that you're speaking that employer's language is identify those things in the posting that make sense. What is important here? So that means reading the job posting. It's not just looking at the job title and then just rolling with it. You need to be able to, see exactly, what is happening in the job responsibilities as well as in the requirements. So it's not just look at the job post and then skip down to the requirements. A lot of those keywords and the things that they're looking for you to have experience with fall within those job responsibilities. And so a quick way for you to actually be able to point out those keywords is to use a system, say whether it's either JobScan or maybe you're using something like ChatGPT. You don't have to pay for ChatGPT or Claude or whatever AI system you're going to use in that aspect. You can use it for free 99 and you can ask it to identify the keywords in this job posting that need to be in my resume. And you can ask it to exclude the soft skills. So that way you're not wasting space, including things like detailed oriented communication skills, as Nathan alluded to earlier. So it is important that also when you're asking AI to help you write your resume, understand that other folks are doing the same thing. So when you're copying and pasting things directly from AI into your resume, you're telling the recruiter that, you know what, I'm just gonna do this halfway and I want to look and sound just like everybody else. AI, while it is good and it can give you a good starting point, you're putting yourself at risk for plagiarism because it is pulling information from other people's documents that are online. It's pulling things from articles, from resumes that I may have written, resumes that Nathan may have written that ended up in some sort of publications. So understand that that information is not unique to you.
Mm.
You need to extract that information and take from it what aligns with what you do. It is therefore an example. Do not ever copy and paste anything directly from any sort of AI software and place it into your resume. Keywords are one thing, you can copy those directly, but full on accomplishment bullets, full on statements and summary statements, job scopes and things like that, you want to make sure that they're personalized and customized to you as an individual because you are being interviewed, not everybody else's content that is using because it is learning from other people. So you want to make sure that you're keeping that individuality because we can tell. We can
I
tell when
love
it's AI.
I love that you said that, but I think I'm going to add to that and just ask you about it. What about quantifying the achievements to make yourself look and feel different from everyone else that's applying to your role as well? Talk about quantifying your achievements.
Absolutely. So quantifying your achievements is something that's super important, but it gets people really, really, kind of in their feelings about it. Well, I don't have numbers. I don't know these numbers. What am I supposed to do? Numbers don't always make sense in certain situations. If you had a hamburger that was good, to tell somebody that is 73% better than another hamburger that you had, it does not make sense, right? So there are certain times where you quantify with your success, you quantify with the impact that you've had. You may not necessarily be able to assign a number to it, but you know when you've made something better. You know when you created something out of nothing. So maybe a policy was not there before, and now you're wanting to show that I created this policy, which made things easier for my coworkers or made things easier for my partners, or it helped me to secure, this relationship. But you may not be able to assign a number to it. So quantifying is more about, showing the impact. So Nathan, you want to add to that too?
Yeah, that was a lot of great information. When I talk about qualifying accomplishments, I get the same thing. Well, I don't have accomplishments. Well, look at ways did you help the company make money or save money? What did you do to help make work easier? It doesn't always have to be a number, but if you know you did those things, then there's ways you can incorporate that information to your resume. And back on the AI piece, it's a game changer, but you hit all the right points. You don't want to ask AI to write your resume from scratch because you don't look like everyone else. So you want to, give it pretty detailed prompts, and then put it in your voice. I agree. Don't copy and paste everything that you get out of those responses into your resume because recruiters they know this is happening, and so they're getting keen on how to look for things that look like AI text. So make sure you put it into your voice, and AI will tell you, look, they can make mistakes, they can lie, they can exaggerate. So make sure you're reviewing the input or the output from all those prompts you're using or the chats you're using.
Hey, if you don't mind me chiming in, Ashley, regarding keywords, right? So we were in a Taleo training and they had suggested that people actually even look at the company website and maybe use some of that information and some of the keywords that are on the website to incorporate into their resume because it allows them to have a higher ranking in Taleo or some of the other applicant tracking systems. Have you heard that? Do you believe that to be true?
I've heard that, and in some instances it does work. But the thing with that is still copying and pasting something directly from a company's website. We know that you've done that. We've read this website. Sometimes we've helped write the information for those websites. And so, especially when it's a careers page, but you want to, what the goal is to speak that employer's language. So if they are talking about maybe they're talking about driving sales, they are talking about things, the new and next when it comes to technology, then you want to make sure that your language is mirroring that same type of vision, that same type of of value add, right? So it is about being familiar to the person, the same way that because people hire people, and people want to communicate with those who understand them. And so what we're looking for when we're reviewing resumes is somebody who gets it, somebody who can identify, like, hey, this is what this employer's problem is, here's how I can solve it. So it helps to enter, some of that information, but copying and pasting whole paragraphs from somebody's website just so you can rank, you still got to interview, boo. You still have to sit across from me, and I still have to know that that is you. Because if your resume is this grandiose, document, and it's this great marketing tool, and then you're sitting across from me and can't speak to any of that, I'm like, who is this? Am I interviewing the right person? Make it make sense. Just
So,
make it
so
make sense.
when we talk about making it make sense, accomplishments being more important than responsibilities, are we talking about storytelling if we get to the interview setting?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You want to be able to, if the goal is for them to have somebody who is responsible for partnership development, then you want to give examples on your resume where you've developed partnerships. Maybe you have, repaired a declining relationship. Maybe you've taken that partnership and turned it into some monetary value. Maybe you've done something to help the company expand market share. You want to be able to give those examples of how you've done exactly that. And so that lets me know, okay, this person does understand it. And then I want to drill down a little bit further in that in the interview.
Well, amazing. Nathan, is there any advice you have when people are speaking about their accomplishments? Like, so now we've went from the resume
Hmm.
into the resume setting, into the interview setting, but also even on the resume, I think it's important to kind of tell a story about your career progression there as well. Any advice you have to people as they build their presence?
Yeah, this, the experience section of the resume, Ken, is like the meat of the resume. And so I see this all the time. People, they'll get lazy and they'll take their job description and cut and paste those duties and responsibilities into their resume. That's a start, but that makes you look like everyone else that's a financial analyst or a staff accountant or an engineer. And because these companies use templates to write some of these job descriptions. So just simply taking your job description from your job and using those as bullets in your resume, it tells me what you were assigned to do. I have no idea how good you were, or even if you did a good job at that. So on the accomplishment side, that's what separates you from the competition. It's things that are unique to you and or your team, where you again help the company save money, make money. If you made processes, if you streamline processes, if you train people, if you created new documentation or new processes and procedures, those are the things. And I've learned over the years, most people have a hard time or they have trouble sort of patting themselves on the back. So I tell my clients, look, this is your one chance where you can, brag. I know mom says don't brag, but you can brag now. Brag, free yourself up to tell things about yourself that you've done well, because if you don't, no one will. So it is
So,
storytelling. It's talking about, scenarios where you've, had challenges, and you can talk about the actions you uh, uh, put out there to meet those challenges. And then also, not only their actions, but what were the results of your actions that met that challenge? And so it's a CAR process. I know Ashley's familiar with that the CAR sort of template. And if you do that enough through each job you have, talking about the challenges, the actions, and the results, that will really get the point across your value add to the employer.
Nathan, tell
getting
them what CAR is, because there's CAR, PAR, STAR. Tell them what's the difference between those.
Yeah, so CAR is challenge action results. PAR is problem action results. And I guess STAR is situation task action results. So the key is the results. Most people they lead with an action. They did something, but they leave out the result. The result is what really makes an accomplishment an accomplishment. Without that, it's really just an action or a duty. So the result is what really sort of pulls everything together to make the accomplishment.
so there's been some studies out here that basically suggest that recruiters spend about 6 to 7 seconds looking at a resume. So with that being said, what is that a real number? And what can we do if that's the case? What can we do to really get the attention of the people on the other side of that document? Next slide, please. Ashley?
Yeah, so I think with this, so the first 6 to 7 seconds, that's the first draft. That's the first look, the first run that we have when it comes to reviewing resumes. So that's not that the recruiter that's interviewing you has only spent 6 to 7 seconds looking at your information. That's about how long it takes for a recruiter to decide whether or not you're worth an additional look, or whether or not you meet the minimum qualifications of the position, right? So in that first 6 to 7 seconds, I'm looking to see that I have contact information. I'm looking to see that you're in the appropriate location that aligns with the position. I'm looking for your education. Do you have the required education? Do you have the required years of experience? Are your titles similar to that of what I'm looking for? That doesn't take but 6 or 7 seconds for me to do that, 10 seconds max. Now, by the time I've decided, okay, this person is a yes, I'm going to look at your resume probably 10 to 15 times before I get on that phone with you. Your resume is going to pass so many different hands by the time you get to the interview. So your resume has been looked at much longer than 6 to 7 seconds. So that's why we say it's good for you not to use big, huge blocks of text, but to break the information up so that it's easily digestible, that it's easily scannable, because we're always on our phones. We're looking for things very, very quickly. I remember when tweets became a thing, right? That was because, people like little short bursts of information that give them information very quickly, and they can decide whether or not they want to click on the link to learn more, right? And so your resume, you can think of it as something like an IG reel or something that's going to come by real fast. But if you want to learn more, you can click through to that person's profile and you can watch other videos. So your resume serves that same type of purpose. Get me in that first 6 to 7 seconds, so that I can know that you're supposed to be here, that you have the qualifications to be considered for this opportunity, and then we can move on with further looks.
Nathan, as you're structuring resumes and you're trying to get the recruiter or the talent management professional or the hiring manager's attention in that 6 to 7 second window, what are you looking to do? Like, what are you looking to emphasize?
Yeah. So real quick, that's a great segue into that. Um, if I see an objective or a career summary, a lot of times I'll just delete that because that's a big chunk of text. So one way to catch their attention is at the very top, use a targeted headline and think about maybe 3 or 4 functional skills that you may have. Maybe it's artificial intelligence, maybe it's project management, maybe it's uh, budgeting or P&L management. Whatever those strong technical skills you have, I always tell my clients, put yourself in the shoes of the recruiter and or the hiring manager. Pretend you're them and you're hiring for the role. And so if you can put yourself in their shoes, what's most important to them? What skills are they looking for? So you can use that targeted headline front and center at the top of the resume, right below your contact information, and you'll catch their attention right there when they see those targeted skills. Now, to Ashley's point earlier, she's going to probably take a glance into the experience section and say, okay, where are those skills playing out? So don't just list target skills at the top that you don't have. If you have them, hopefully you do, then show how you've used them in your career somewhere in the experience section. And that's how I would do it in that first 6 to 7 seconds.
It's amazing advice. It's the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series. Kenneth L. Johnson here with Ashley Watkins Thomas and Nathan Adams. Listen, please continue to drop your questions in the Q&A. We will have a Q&A segment probably at about, 12:45, where they'll answer your questions live here on the Digital Career Success Series. All right, so you spoke about kind of targeting your resume, right, or your document. So resumes need to be targeted for a specific role, but how do we do that immediately on a document?
Yeah, so first, resume is not a one size fit all. Unless your job focus is so focused and you're applying for a single job and it's always these requirements, these duties, you can have a one size fits all resume, but most times you can't. And so the key there is I use an analogy of putting blinders on. You want the recruiter or the hiring manager to only see what they're interested in. So if you have a diverse career, I say, you know what? I've had clients tell me I've done so many things, Nathan. I can do anything. Well, that's good for you, but a recruiter's not looking for a jack of all trades. They're looking for a specific person that can do a specific thing. So that's when you have to say, okay. I've had people say, Nathan, I've been a manager, but I can also be an individual contributor, a technical person. So that might warrant a manager version of your resume where you're showing leadership, but you could also have a version of your resume where you downplay the management because if you're looking for an individual contributor role, you want to focus on being an individual contributor. And then also, let's say if you do have skills in sales or you have skills and have skills in project management, maybe that's not going to work on one resume. So you can have a sales resume that focuses on your sales abilities and the things you've done there, and you can have a project management resume. So those are instances where you could have definitely more than one version of your resume.
Well, I love it. I love it. Ashley, I know this is a big focus. I've read some of your stuff. I've seen you speaking about this topic. Please jump in.
Yeah. So I think the biggest issue that people have is they don't understand the difference between targeting and tailoring. So as Nathan said, the target is the type of job that you're going to go for. So again, if it's that project manager, if it's that IT manager or whatever it's going to be, that's your job target. That's the type of job that you want to get. But when you start tailoring your resume, that means you're going to get so specific because if it is a IT manager or a project manager in healthcare, that's going to look very different than nonprofit, than the tech field, than maybe someone who is who may be working for a sales organization. Those tailoring tips are going to be completely different because those industries are going to be looking for something different. So you can have that job target, but you always want to make sure that you're tailoring your resume. And so sometimes I see people who have these ambiguous job titles that don't tell us anything about what it is that they do. So some people say, well, if I don't have that title, why are you judging my job title to determine what it is that I do? The same way that if I'm looking on a menu and I want a taco, I need it to actually be a taco and not be a hamburger. So if you're the position title that you use should notify the person that's reviewing your resume that this is the type of job that I have, because not all the time does your job title at your company match what you actually do. I've been an HR generalist before. I didn't do any generalist work. I was a recruiter. That's what I did. So that's what I put my title on my resume. So it was HR generalist slash recruiter, because I needed people to understand that anywhere else, if I was doing these same responsibilities, I'd be a recruiter. I would not be an HR generalist. An HR generalist focuses on something completely different. So I'm letting people know outside of my organization that this is what the job title would be. So you can use a slash title to prevent you from lying on your resume, but it's letting people know this is my official title, but this is my functional title. By function, I am this. And so, because again, we're scanning those different things. We're scanning very quickly, and we need to be able to say, I don't need you to tell me that you're a teacher, but you want me to believe that you're a project manager or that you're qualified to be a project manager. So call yourself what your function is, because you are writing your resume to get a position outside of your company. I don't care what your current company calls you. They're not interviewing. And you shouldn't be worried about your current company if you're applying to a new organization. It's for you to tell that story to this new employer so that they get it and that they can take you seriously for the opportunity that you're applying to.
You know, that's extremely important on a lot of fronts, because even just to navigate through that ATS, you're probably going to need to have something that aligns higher in your resume just to increase the rankings, right? So, if they're looking for a recruiter and you've done recruitment work, but you are an HR generalist, you're still going to need recruiter to show up pretty high in your resume just to increase your chances of falling on the hiring manager and or recruiter's desk, right? So
Right.
as long as you're not completely fabricating that, and that's the work you were doing, and you can speak to that in the interview setting, I think that's a great tip that you just provided. Nathan, how do you feel about that? With
You mean,
titles, matching titles, basically.
yeah, that's great. I've come across that. It's like, well, I see on your resume you were a systems analyst. Okay, that's kind of a little generic. I mean, it could be IT or maybe not. So that's great advice, because companies, I don't want to say they play games, but different
They
companies
do.
will call different roles different things. And so, your company might call project management, I don't know, program management or what have you. And so you really have to understand, when you're applying outside of your company, you want to tailor your resume to make sure you're not, because in that first 60-second scan, Ashley may be looking for, a project manager, and she doesn't see anyone on your resume, but you did the work, but maybe you had that role listed. It was not intuitive, and so you get put in the no pile. So it is important to make sure you're aligning your job titles with the jobs you're looking for, and being aware of your company or using, I'd say, maybe non-traditional job titles. That's certainly warranted to do that. Yes, I
So
agree.
so let's talk a little bit about best practices here, right? So you're qualified for the actual position, but your resume isn't landing interviews. What steps can we take to kind of, I guess, I don't want to say job the system, but really kind of bring some attention to you and your brand? Ashley, you want to jump in and kind of share a little bit about this?
Right. You want to think about what's important to that employer. Usually, when things are repeated over and over again in a job posting, where you see the same thing being said over and over again, they may have it in the summary of the job or the about the job, and then the job responsibilities. Then you see that information again in the requirement section. You know that that's something that you need to speak to on your resume, because if it's not on your resume, it doesn't exist. And I know some people, really do, they have pause because they're thinking, oh, well, I'm going to falsify my information, or this is not going to be, true. This is me lying. It is not. It's you providing context on what you do. I'm not saying that if you are, a cashier, you're going to put on there that you're a rocket scientist. No, you're not going to do that. That's flat out lying. You're adding context to the work that you do so that the person reading your resume can understand those things. When somebody doesn't understand your information, they don't understand how it aligns with the position that they're hiring for, then you run the risk of not getting an interview for a job that you're fully qualified for. Then when you're not getting interviews because you're overqualified, it's because you're spending too much time talking about the past versus talking about the things that you've been doing, that have prepared you for where you're headed. So your resume is to get you to, a point in the future. Don't focus so much on that stuff that happened 25, 30 years ago, even if you were at that company 40 years. Really, going back about 10 to 15 years and talking about those things that are relevant to the job. So you're going to pull out those transferable skills. Even if you were in marketing and you're trying to shift to accounting, talk about those accounting responsibilities, because that's where you're headed. You can say that you did marketing, but you're not going to spend a whole bunch of time talking about that. You don't have to delete those positions off of your resume. You just don't focus on the things that are no longer important. And that job posting and understanding what those types of positions, that are similar. So you may want to look at program managers that are at multiple organizations at the level that you want to apply. What are they asking for? What are the trends? What are the themes that you're seeing that are reoccurring that everybody is asking for when they're hiring for those types of jobs? And whether those postings say it or not, you want to make sure that you're including that information in there, because just because it's not there, job descriptions are trash sometimes. Sometimes people have terrible job postings, but it's up
Mhm.
to you to understand what your industry requires of that type of person, and you include that information in your resume.
Man, Nathan, what I'm hearing Ashley speak about is being able to share that not only are you a problem solver, but you're a continuous learner. And as you look at people who have really solid resumes, but they're not landing interviews,
Mhm.
where do you believe they should focus?
Yeah, so I'm gonna put on my career coach hat now, and
Let's do it.
I'll have to talk about networking. I always tell my clients, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I said, look, I'll write this resume for you. It's going to be great, but unfortunately, I can't guarantee an interview or a job offer because I'm not on the other side. With the competition, I don't know who you're competing with, but and it can be a frustrating, activity. But the networking piece is huge. I've been coaching for 20 years, and I've had clients that go on to LinkedIn or Indeed, see a job, apply for it, get an interview, get a job. That still works and will always work. But I've had so many clients that said, Nathan, my boss from 15 years ago, I reached out to him and he referred me to one of his colleagues. And by referral, I got my foot in the door. So I'm an advocate for diversifying the job search. The resume is great. That's the main thing. Apply, get you a good resume, and apply with the job boards. But network as well. You'd be surprised of who you know that knows someone, that can kind of put you in front of the pile. Because I was telling a client just the other day, hiring managers, they want the easy hire. If they got a stack of 25 resumes, but then Bill, one of their good employees, comes in and say, hey, I got a colleague that might be a good fit for this opportunity. Your hiring manager is going to look at that. He's going to at least give them a glance, and if they're good, they can move in front of the head of the line. So I'm an advocate for networking. When the traditional way of applying for jobs through resumes and the job boards are not working.
Hey, speaking of not working, let's talk about this. And I don't know if you've shared this backstory, but share a little bit about how you got here into this space.
Oh, you mean into resume writing and coaching?
Correct.
Yeah, so I did share it earlier, but I was an engineer, mechanical engineer, master's degree, and lost my job to a layoff 22 years ago. And from that, decided maybe I should do something different. And so I'm an introvert, by nature, but I fell into resume writing and loved it and became certified and just got really inspired by helping my clients grow and seeing their, the joy in their face when they got the job or got the interview. And then I got into career coaching and then into the outplacement space. And I'll take a little spin on the networking piece. I'm here on this webinar because of networking. You and I met in Miami at the Black Men Excel conference, and I was found on LinkedIn through networking. So networking works. A lot of my opportunities through contracting and writing and coaching have come through networking. So I would, as a job seeker, don't discount that because my product is resume writing and career coaching. Everyone on this call that's looking for a job has a product. You are your product. You are the product, and you have to really be good at selling yourself for these opportunities.
Yeah. I got my last 3 jobs from networking.
I love it. So let's talk about that, right? So networking holistically, and now there's this thing that's all encompassing that's came into the conversation, and it's social media, right? I see that even if we're looking at the next slide, right, and it's be aware of social media presence during job search. Let's talk about that. Let's spend some time here. Ashley, you want to jump in and speak a little bit about this? Because I know you're extremely active on social. So I'm sure that comes across in a couple different ways, you branding yourself, but you also looking at other people that you're working with and maybe giving them advice on how they need to show up.
Right. So when we use certain sourcing tools to locate candidates when maybe they haven't applied in our system already and we're going out to hunt for those candidates, it pulls up all of their socials. If we have an email address, it'll pull up your LinkedIn profile. Is going to pull up any of your socials. And a lot of times we'll go to those socials because maybe your LinkedIn profile is not active, right? And so if I look at your activity, I haven't seen you comment, like, post, share anything in the last 3 years, then I'm not going to reach out to you on LinkedIn. I'm going to find you on that Instagram because that's where you're most active. I'm going to find you where I think you're going to respond to me because I need you to talk to me, right? So, but if I get there and everything that you have is it's either negative or you're bad mouthing your employers, you're thinking that you're venting just to your small network, whatever, it does make a difference in whether or not you're contacted. You can have as many privacy settings as you want to, but that doesn't stop screenshots. It doesn't protect everything. So if you go and make changes, and these platforms do change their privacy settings, so something that you may have posted privately, it may now be public just because something has changed since then. So never trust the fact that your profile is private.
Mhm.
Nathan, do you want to add something with how you maybe coach your clients when it comes to?
Yeah, here's man. I've seen some stuff on LinkedIn that I just chose not to comment on because I didn't want to get pulled into the rabbit hole. But
Yeah.
companies have culture, and you have to know that. And I'm all for being your authentic self. I got a home Nathan, I got a professional Nathan, and sometimes those two don't play together well. So you have to remember that, and just remember that companies have a culture, and you need to investigate that. You can't just say, well, I want to work for Wells Fargo, and they just want to accept me as I am. Okay, maybe they will, but maybe they won't, because if I'm a good hiring manager, I got a team and my team's working well, and we got to add to the team. I'm not going to bring somebody onto the team that's going to derail what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find someone that's a good fit. You could be the subject matter expert, but if I got a team of introverts, I'll just be transparent. If I got a team of introverts, and you come in and you're like the biggest extrovert, I'm like, man, they're good, but gosh, they're going to overpower this team. That's a consideration. So you really have to. Hiring managers, they're going to take a look at your social media. So it's a brand. Your brand on your resume needs to align with what the hiring manager is going to see on Facebook, going to see on LinkedIn, going to see on Instagram. And so if you're in an industry where you can have some liberties and be flexible and kind of be out there a little bit, okay, fine. There are industries that cater to that. But if you're in a more conservative type of industry, and you're applying for those jobs and your social media is saying something different, don't be surprised if you're not getting callbacks. It's just as plain and simple as that.
Mhm. Yeah, a lot of times that activity section of your LinkedIn profile, it will get you in more trouble than
Yeah,
any Instagram, TikTok, or anything that you can ever have,
yeah,
because it really is just like where people swarm and everybody's frustrated. Everybody's
Right.
mad at this recruiter for ghosting them. So now you're on here bashing recruiters. You're bashing hiring
Right.
managers. You're talking about the hiring process and how, you don't want to work anyway. You don't want to go to work. Be careful when you post those types of things because that
Right.
information is public. And we do have the potential to see it. Kind of don't care because, like I said, I have lived a double life for, I don't know how long. Now it's just, it just became, married. I act a fool on LinkedIn the same way that I do on Facebook and whatever. But I also know my value and I also know exactly, what to post and things like that as well.
Right.
But yes, we do look, but at minimum, get your LinkedIn profile in order. Because if I see everything that I need on LinkedIn, I don't need to go searching anywhere else to try to find your information. So show up where it's most important to show up and maybe just put a pause on the foolishness on everything else until you actually land the job. Then you'll know who to block once you get to work.
That's right.
You know what,
And one more quick thing I'll share. Just like we don't advocate for personal information like or religious or political affiliations on your resume, be careful on LinkedIn. You might feel strongly one way politically, one way religiously, but you're going to have a hiring manager that's going to be interviewing for people, and if they're on the other persuasion of your viewpoint, that could be an issue. It's like, look, I'm this, they're that. I'm not sure I want to bring them to the team. So you want to be careful. If you feel strongly and you say, you know what, they're going to take me, I'm going to a company that's going to accept me who I am. Okay, well, just be aware that could knock you out of some opportunities, but you just you forge forward and work your job search that way. But just be aware that those could be issues.
definitely could be issues. Ashley spoke about showing up where you're supposed to show up. I want to thank everybody for showing up here on the Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series. We are going to jump into the Q&A section. Nathan and Ashley, I'm going to share with you guys. I've been doing this show for 5 years. I've never seen this many questions in the Q&A. So you guys are doing something right. You got everybody in here with questions. I know we won't get to them all, so I encourage all of you to continue the conversation on LinkedIn. Ashley and Nathan are really social people. So if we don't get to your questions or answers here and myself, please don't hesitate to reach out and maybe we can get them answered on another platform. All right, let's just jump into it, right? So we got a question about just discussing resume layout. Should skills be at the top or after experience, for example? Any thoughts on how the ideal resume layout for someone?
I'll say the quick answer is, those hard technical skills, put them at the top. Right after your contact information, you can do technical skills and then go right into your experience. If you put them at the bottom of the resume, like Ashley mentioned, that first scan, they're looking for keywords, they're looking for things that pop out. And so if it's on page 2 or, even if you got a 3-page resume, if it's down in the pile, they may not get to those skills. So put them front and center, right after your contact information above the experience. That's my opinion.
Yep. Never assume that they're going to make it to the second page of your resume.
Yes.
So any important information, highly relevant, page 1.
Wow. Yeah, no, I love that. Never assume they're going to make it to the second page. Exactly. Hit them when you have them, right? All right, listen, let's talk about this. Well, they want us to address ageism. Putting forth a resume is clear, but is there an effective way to, I guess, prevent someone from kind of maybe singling in on your age? Any advice as they construct a resume?
So real quick on that, 15, I used to be 15 to 20 years on experience. Now I'm saying 15 years. If you had a job that said 1990 anything, delete that bad boy with the quickness. That's too far back. You could have hiring managers that are looking at your resume that were born in the 90s. So just to be honest, so 15 years education. If you graduated and it said 19 anything, I wouldn't include that date. Typically dates on education, maybe the last 10 years, 2015 or so, maybe 2010. Past that, drop the date because now your work experience is more important. So suppressing those dates is the most important thing with the ages. Now, one little other thing, contact information. I don't want to see an email that says at AOL.com. That tells me a lot about age. It's got to be a Gmail, maybe Yahoo. But no, definitely not
Yahoo
AOL.
is even Yahoo is even getting
Yahoo
it's
is
not
verging
even
on getting old too. Yeah.
Hotmail.
Hotmail. Yeah.
Anything with your cable provider, baby, you definitely auntie and uncle at
Yeah.
that point.
And that tells, and
Yeah.
people don't realize that tells, God forbid, don't put a fax number. Don't do that. Yeah.
Or if you're putting home and cell, everybody has a cell. If you have a landline,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you're 80s
That's right.
baby and beyond.
It's interesting though when you advise someone on the email address, I've gotten pushback on that. And I'm like, listen, I'm just trying to share with you what people are seeing. Like an AOL and a Hotmail address is going to date you. So
Mhm.
Keep
sometimes
your AOL. If you want to keep it, but create you a Gmail just for work. Just
sure.
create you a job search Gmail email and you're good. If you want to keep that AOL email, we're not saying delete it. You can keep it, but create you a more relevant one, more
And
recent.
not only that, their spam filters are not really as good as some of your more modern email service providers as well. So you have an issue with Hotmail, Yahoo, and stuff like that with bounce backs. So you want to
That's
make
good.
it easy for people to reach you regardless.
We got a question from Lisa asking if they'll be able to access this recording after the show. Yes, this recording and all of our Urban League Jobs Network Digital Career Success Series shows are available on our YouTube channel, Urban League Jobs Network YouTube channel. So if you Google that, or if you go to YouTube and search that, you'll find us. Well, you'll find Nathan and Ashley probably in a few days, but all of our other shows are listed there as well. All right, let me jump into another question. So here's the question as I'm reading it. This person works in digital marketing. So they use an AI tool basically to place their resume in and then place the position description in, and then kind of creating a document that works from those two documents. And then they'll apply to jobs accordingly. Any advice on someone using AI in that fashion?
I would just say quickly, we kind of hit on this earlier, and Ashley did a great job with that, is do not copy and paste the output verbatim. Make it your voice. And as I learn more about AI, it's really about the prompting too. So you can really have a conversation with the prompt. Don't just say, create a resume based on this or create a new resume based on my resume and this job description. Give it more. Maybe you say highlight these skills. Like Ashley mentioned earlier, suppress the soft skills. So you can really have a conversation. And if you don't like the initial output, give it some feedback and it can continue to generate it. But at the end, whatever output you do get, make sure it's your voice. Because I've seen posts from recruiters say, look, here's some more AI content I just came across. It can be generic and vague, and you want to make it your voice so that it doesn't look like a lot of AI. I know Grammarly, one of the spell checker or the software now you can upload a document into Grammarly.com and it can give it an impression of how much of that document is AI generated. So there are tools to figure out that, so you want to be careful.
All right, I have another question. Should resume accomplishments, be listed separately from your responsibilities?
That's a good one.
Yeah, I would say first you should have a job scope. So the scope is going to explain what you were hired to do. What was the challenge? What was the reason for them needing you butt in seat? Okay. And then your accomplishments are bullets. Your bullets should not be responsibilities. Your bullets are things that you've done well based on the responsibilities that you were hired to do. So if you have bullets that are task oriented, that you did this particular thing, then no, you need to delete that. That's not an accomplishment bullet. So that's why it's called an accomplishment bullet, because it's talking about your success in those areas.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I'll see a experience section and it'll be a specific job and everything will be in bullets. And they'll have some accomplishments in there, some duties, and it's like you lose the impact. So I'll always take the responsibilities and duties information that are in bullet points. I'll back those up into like a little short scope or paragraph. I call it like a position description that describes the role, and then I'm left with accomplishments. You want those to stand out. You want those to be hard-hitting accomplishments, lead with action verbs, quantify if you can, and those will stand out. But the duties, you can work that back into like a little scope section or position description right above those bullets.
No, real quick, I want to jump into this. How do you mitigate being overqualified for a job? If you have extensive experience in another career field, but you're attempting to transfer into a new career field with no experience in that new field, how do you craft a resume that allows you to be considered?
Transferable skills.
Yeah, you read my mind.
Yep.
that is it. That's like resume 101 or 201 maybe. But yeah, transferable skills is it.
Yeah, I think transferable skills and listen, networking is your friend, as Nathan was speaking about. sometimes you just got to go the extra mile and put yourself in front of the hiring manager or someone that can kind of navigate some of that space for you and present you as a candidate. That also works. Nathan, please jump in here. They'd like for you to explain, well, give the meaning of the acronyms again. CAR, PAR,
Yeah.
STAR.
Great. So CAR is challenge, action, and results. And so it's a way that you can sort of outline your accomplishment. So you start out with what was the challenge you were presented with? So you can kind of write that out. And then what was the action you took to meet that challenge? And then what were the results? Now, look, we're in the age of AI. You can tell AI, look, here was my challenge, my action, and my result. Please create me an accomplishment bullet point. You just spit it out. Then you want to put it into your voice. So that's CAR. PAR, similar, problem, action, result. So same thing. What problem on the job were you faced with? What actions did you take to address that problem? And then what were the results? And again, before we had all this AI, we'd have to, resume writers and people writing the resumes would have to take that information and then sort of massage it into an accomplishment. Now you can use AI for that. And then the last one was STAR. And a lot of companies use this for interviewing, but it's situation, task, action, results. So you describe the situation, describe the task and the action, and then at the end, the results are what matter. A lot of times people fall short and they'll just talk about maybe the challenge and the action, but the result is really what solidifies everything into an accomplishment.
Yeah. And then on your resume, you just do that backwards. You list the results first and then the action and the challenge.
Yes, and that's a great way to do that. You're right.
Well, listen, I wanna give you guys the opportunity to provide a closing remark. Ashley, I'd like to start with you. Any closing remarks for our audience today?
Just show up authentically, and make sure that you understand what is required of you as as the candidate. How can you put your package together in a way that lets that employer know that you're the best thing since sliced bread, that there is no other reasonable choice besides you because you get it, because you can show your value, you understand where you add the biggest impact, and really just show up boldly. That's basically the gist of what we're saying here. Show up boldly, get help where you need it.
Nathan.
Yeah, I know people stress over their resumes because that's like the document. You got to apply, you got to have a resume. But take a step back. Don't overanalyze. Sometimes good is good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. But also, so I'll put the career coach hat back on. I've seen it on social media. Job search is hard. People have been frustrated. They're getting ghosted. They're applying for like 100 jobs and not getting interviews. Deal with your mental health. I mean, seriously, take time to take a walk, spend time with family and friends. Don't just, the number is, or the rule of thumb is like for your job search is a full-time job. Don't work overtime. I mean, work enough to get the job done, but take care of your mental health. And if you need to step away from social media, step away because that can be a distraction for ultimately what you're trying to do.
Hey, speaking of spending time with family and friends, man, I want to thank you today for spending time with us because it's my understanding that it's your birthday today. Am I correct?
Who?
You. Is it your birthday today?
No, it's my birthday month. I got
Okay.
15 more days.
Okay. Well, look, thank you for spending this time with us in your birthday month. We
Yeah.
appreciate it. I'd like to thank both of you, man. I was really excited about this session and you guys delivered. As I mentioned, we had great turnout today. I want to thank the audience for making this an exciting session. I apologize for the technical issues. I'd also like to thank, man, the Swiss Army knife, Julius Jones, for jumping in and doing what he does, man. I love that guy. So I appreciate you, my friend. All right, look, if you want to stay connected to Ashley Thomas, I think she got a little offer here on this slide, but look, I know you can catch her at Right Step Resumes, and I know you can catch her on LinkedIn, and I'm sure she's really active in our email, or at least has somebody pushing those emails to her. So please lock in, check her out, and check out the Resume Reboot resume writing course that she's offering. And she got a little discount for the Urban League family. So thank you so very much, Ashley. We appreciate you. If you want to stay connected with Nathan, you can catch him at Black Men Excel. I'm sure you can do that, right? But
Yeah, I'll be there next year.
Also, firstimpressionscount.com. Just lock in with him. He's on LinkedIn. I see him actively answering questions and giving feedback and just being a presence on LinkedIn. And he also is giving our Urban League family DCSS offer, comprehensive resume review. So please take advantage of the services of Ashley and Nathan. I'd like to thank you guys for joining us. Again, I know we didn't get to all your questions. Please don't hesitate to connect with me on LinkedIn and visit eastcoastexecutives.com as well. But look, we use these platforms and our platforms to answer your questions. This is about service, and we're here to provide a service for our Urban League constituents. And speaking of providing a service, I love this slide right here. Next week, no, 2 weeks, January 29th, we are going to do it again. If you attended the national conference, you saw one of these guests there. She was amazing talking about technology. And then we're partnering Sachelle with Ashley, the data girl Ash, for the Future of Work AI edition. I'm excited about that. Spoke to both of these individuals. They're excited to be joining us. I'd also like to thank the National Urban League team, Corey O'Donnell, Wanda Jackson, everybody over there that makes this a special thing. I'm glad to be back in 2025. We're going to make it great for you once again. I'm Kenneth L. Johnson. Thank you to Ashley Watkins Thomas, Nathan Adams, and of course, Julius Jones for making today great. Listen, we'll see you on the 29th. Please register now. Let's do it.